because don't forget the plasma volume we already determined before, and now we have also the globular volume. So we have everything we need in order to determine the total blood volume. I told you that it's very, very important to keep in balance the water homeostasis, to keep in balance increta, excreta. And I told you that we do this mainly due to the hypothalamus and due to the kidneys. I already mentioned during the lecture that the hypothalamus also gives the trigger for the thirst, and also gives the command for secretion, depending on the situation, of the antidiuretic hormone or aldosterone. And also the kidney, due to the fact that there we have the filtration, reabsorption, and secretion processes. Now, about some practical situations, let's imagine that we have a disbalance. I told you that we can have a dehydration, meaning that we lost fluids, we lost water, or on the opposite side, we can have hyperhydration, or in the worst case scenario, water poisoning. Okay, so excess of water is hyperhydration. Okay. You have here a few examples of situations that really lead, not only can, they really lead to dehydration. First, insufficient intake of water, which seems normal that if we don't drink enough water, we will end with a dehydration. Severe vomiting or diarrhea when we lose a lot of water, and you'll see that we lose also electrolytes. Profuse sweating. Profuse sweating, it's very abundant sweating. You know, it's that sweat when you wipe the patient and immediately after you finish doing this, he's all over full of drops of sweating again. Increased diuresis also can lead to dehydration. And don't forget some bad treatments, or correct treatments but bad conduct treatments, with the use of laxative and diuretics. Okay, so we can end up with dehydration. Just to have a more clear picture, I gave you some symptoms and some signs which occur when we have a dehydration. First, when we have a mild and moderate dehydration, then severe one, and the last one in a very, very severe situation. So, moderate dehydration means that the oral mucosa, it's dry. We have an intense thirst sensation. I mentioned here reduced perspiration, but please keep in mind that we have a reduced perspiration even in the situation when we should have an intense one. So the body needs for an intense perspiration in order to cool itself, but due to the decreased volume of water inside of the body, it keeps the water inside in order to save us, okay? So it doesn't allow itself to cool as much as it needs. And also reduced diuresis. So these are the first signs of mild and moderate dehydration. When the situation gets more severe, you will see beside those signs also a decreased blood volume and a decreased cardiac output. Why? Because the volemia, it's decreased. And here, when the things goes worst, we can experience the cardiogenic shock. Of course, in case of a very, very severe dehydration, we can see damages in terms of very important organs such as brain, liver, and kidneys. Of course, if the brain it's damaged, the patient will be disorientated. He will be very confused. Okay. And about the functioning of the kidneys, they simply cease to function. We will see a kidney failure. Why? Because the pressure, the arterial pressure, is too decreased. So these are the signs. This is how you can see, these are your signals that the patient in front of you is dehydrated. Okay, because we start from here, we start from what we can see in a patient. And after that, we will have lab tests and everything else. But the first thing that we see is the patient with those signs and symptoms. About the hyperhydration, I told you it's the excess of water inside the body, which can lead to intoxication. Yeah. About some causes, if there we had decreased intake, now we have an increased, a serious increased intake of water, which can be associated with a low diuresis. Another factor may be a heart failure because the heart cannot exert its pump function normally. So the blood will stay mostly in the inferior limbs, meaning in the decline areas, will stay there. The pressure in those vessels will increase, and slowly but sure, the blood will pass out from the blood vessels into the interstitial space, and edema will occur. You know, the presence of an increased amount of fluid in the interstitial space, it's called edema, and those regions with edema will appear inflated. You'll see like an inflammation there. Okay. Also, some kidney disease can lead to that, or some endocrine situations. About the signs and symptoms, like we had before, changes in the state of mind, if you want, of the patient. It's confused. It's difficult for him to concentrate. You will see some behavioral changing. It's probably dizzy. As a sign of meningeal irritation, you will see vomiting. It's a specific type of vomiting, very sudden, and it does not matter if he had been eating something or not. It's a spontaneous vomiting. Okay. And some ocular, some visual problems, and so on. So, but what you need to remember is this first three or four signs and symptoms. Okay, they are related to hyperhydration. Now, look careful to this scheme or draw if you want here. We have a practical, the fluid or the liquid compartments of the human body. Okay, we have this large area, intracellular compartment, and this line here, this double line, the black one, it's literally or simulates the membrane, the cellular membrane. Okay, cellular membrane. What's next to it? It's the interstitial liquid or fluid, or if it's easier for you to say interstitial space, it's the same thing, it's okay. And this red dot line, it's the vessel wall. It's the vessel wall, okay? And the last segment here, it's the intravascular liquid or intravascular space. Okay. Don't forget that the capillary wall, it's permeable for water, so the water can move through this wall as it please, but the proteins not. The proteins will stay inside the vessel. Okay. So get used to this because you will have an exercise to do using this. Here we have practically the same thing, but presented a little different. So at the bottom we have the volume. So the line, the bottom line, it's the volume. From to the left, it represents the volume of the intracellular liquid or fluid. And to the right, the volume of the extracellular fluid. Okay? And the vertical line represents the osmolarity, if you want, or the concentration of solved substances. Okay, concentration of solved. So, horizontal line means volume, vertical means the osmolarity. Now, we have here two situations. The first one, it's with the continuous line. Okay. And it's how the things stay in the first case. How large is the intracellular volume and how large is the extracellular volume. And then we have the final stage when those volumes, those compartments suffered some changes. For instance, in our and this is represented by the red dot line. For instance, in our example, the intracellular volume increased because you see that the red dot line is outside from the first one, but the osmolarity decreased a little bit. And what happened with the extracellular compartment, we can say that its volume decreased and also its osmolarity decreased. So please work a little bit with those. You have all the explanations here. And I also mentioned, because you will need those information in order to solve the exercise that I gave you in the next slides. Don't forget that the extracellular volume, it's the first one which increase every time when we have an ingestion of fluids. Okay? So when the fluid enters and it's kept inside the body, the first volume that increases is the extracellular. And it is also the first one which decreases when we lose some fluids. The osmolarity, I just told you, is the concentration of dissolved substances. And under physiological circumstances, meaning under normal condition, the concentration of water in intra and extracellular compartments must be the same. Okay? The cell membrane, it's not a barrier for water. The water may cross this barrier in any direction and whatever it feels like it. Okay? So this is why the intracellular and extracellular osmolarity are equal under physiological circumstances. Don't forget. The intracellular volume depends of the extracellular one, mainly depends on the osmolarity of the extracellular. Any time when the osmolarity of the extracellular compartment, fluid, liquid, if you want, increase, so the osmolarity extracellular increase, this means that this osmolarity will attract the water from the cells. So the cells will shrink, if you want. Okay? The volume will decrease. And this happens, as I told you, during sweating or diarrhea or vomiting. On the other way around, when the osmolarity of the extracellular volume decrease, the things stay different. So read, write, make your own notes, your own drawings if you want, but make sure that you understand with it. So for the next time, you have a homework here. You will have 6 diagrams like this. I forgot to tell you that this diagram has a name. It's Darrow-Yannett diagram. And here we have the same things as before. We have the same thing as here. We have volume and osmolarity. We have intracellular volume, extracellular volume. And we also have 2 situations from the start, and then with the red dotted line, it's the second situation. Try to understand what happened with the volume, both of them, intra and extracellular. What happens with the osmolarity and why? And please wrote it down, because I will ask you next time. So we have different situations. As a matter of fact, we have 6 diagrams like this. And but please do those by yourself, and I promise that I will make things clear next time, but I want you to think and to study those situations. Okay, so this is the lab for today. It's a short one, but I think it's okay to be a little shorter, because now I will upload you the other material that I talked to you about. And in the time that you have left until the lab is over, please read it, try to remember things, and if there are new information for you, mark them and study them, because you will need them in the next lessons, in the next lectures, the next labs that we will have. Okay? So, if everything is clear, I will. Are you okay with this lab?
And do you want us to send you the homework?
No, I don't want you to send. No. I just want you to write somewhere on your computer or on a piece of paper. I don't mind, whatever you want. But next time, when we begin the lab, we will talk about this, and I will ask you personal, each of you, what's your opinion, what happened, just to discuss. Okay.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Welcome. Okay, so now I will upload the rest of the material. Thank you very much. Have a nice day.
Thank you. Have a nice day. Goodbye.
Bye.
Safe. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much.